Assalamu alaikum. I want to take the time to welcome Ms. Jamie Kocian. I hope you got your last name right. She's a college counselor at LASA. Most of us know LASA. She's been there for about 15 years, and actually she's moving on to something bigger and better next week or 2 weeks from now. So really want to thank her for taking time off her schedule on a weekend, on a Saturday night, to join us here. And so go ahead, you can start.
Check one. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. While I situate this is a new experience for me. Okay. So good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Jamie Kocian, and thank you, Sheikh, for inviting me to come present on financial aid and scholarships. And I know the audience here tonight may not all have high school students, but if you could raise your hand if you're a current high school student or you're a parent of a high school student. Okay, excellent. So, yay, it's almost time, right? And even if you're not a rising senior this year, financial aid, it'll sneak up on you. College application season will sneak up on you. So it'll just be a matter of time before you're really thinking about this. So part of this presentation is geared more to rising seniors, but I will, of course, mention the aspects that are changing. There are some big changes this year to the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So even if you've had students go through college or go through high school in the college application process, there are some changes even if you've gone through this process before. So, all right, let's get started. Okay, so just sort of general broad strokes, because financial aid is a very tedious process. It's sort of a necessary evil. I like to call it, because financial aid, college is expensive, we know this. Even if you're going to an in-state public university, it's extremely expensive. Not only the cost of tuition, but also the cost of room and board, housing, meal plans. So just generally, what is financial aid? It's the money that's used to offset college expenses. So students can expect, if they're applying for financial aid, they could get any one of these or all. Am I not? Do I need to move this? Okay. Okay, I will keep it very close. Okay, so a student could be receiving all four of these types of financial aid, or one, or not any if you're not applying. So I do have sort of general terms here: scholarships, gift aid, free money, money that you don't have to pay back. That's the best type of financial aid, is scholarships. And then grants, loans, and work study would be awarded from filing what's called the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, which I will talk about in a few slides. Grants, also free money, money you don't have to pay back to the institution or the government if they're awarding that. Loans, as we know, parents, are borrowed money, and usually you're having to pay that back with interest. Work study is just really a job on campus. So it's just additional money that can be used to offset your college expenses. Okay, so I know there's a lot on this slide, but I'm going to break it down. And the big change this year is that there's going to be a new version of the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. It has not changed in maybe the 20 years that I have been, went electronic. So in the 20 plus years that I've been a college counselor, both at the high school level for 15 years and a college admissions counselor at a small liberal arts college, it hasn't changed much. Well, there is a big change this year coming. Instead of opening October 1st, which is pretty standard, the redesigned FAFSA will open up in December, date to be determined. That's a little scary in my world, that we don't have a date that it's going to open, so we all kind of have to stay alert. That means that with a delayed FAFSA start date or launch date, that just means that financial aid packages might be released a little bit later. But if we're going back in history, probably like 7 to 10 years ago, the FAFSA wasn't even opened until January 1st. So we've come a long way. October 1st is the new date. I think by next year, so if you're not a rising senior, if you're a rising junior, I think for the following year, they will go back to October 1st for the launch date. So with financial aid, you have to apply every year for need-based aid. So if you're getting scholarships, that's generally something that scholarships will renew each year. If you get a scholarship from a college, they'll usually say, okay, congratulations, you're getting $10,000 per year for 4 years. So you get $10,000 your freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, as long as you're maintaining a certain GPA. But need-based financial aid, those loans, those grants, and the work study, you do have to reapply every year because, you know, your family's financial situation may change from year to year. I know just in the past few years with COVID, a lot of families had, you know, situations or loss of job or circumstances that, you know, it is important to do financial aid every year because there could be drastic changes. So the information that so only seniors are having to fill out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So if you're not a rising senior, if you're not the class of 2024, then you won't be filling out the FAFSA this year. So I have a slide about that a little bit later. I'll go to it in a second. Now, another thing that you can know, you can do now, like there's not a whole lot you can do with the application, but if you're doing some college planning and you students, if you have a list of schools that you're interested in and you want to get an idea of what it might cost your family to go to that school for the first year, every single college university in the U.S. has what's called a net price calculator on their website. It's a federal mandate that they have these calculators. So families, parents, you can go into these school websites. You just, you know, Google XYZ University. If it's UT Austin, for instance, UT Austin net price calculator, and it will ask you to put in some general financial aid information or financial income information to determine what you might be expected to pay for that first year in college. So that's something that you just find it on the college's website. And then the financial aid application graduation requirement for Texas seniors, this is probably, we're in our 3rd year now. So if you're attending a public school in the state of Texas, every single senior has to fulfill this requirement for graduation. So you need to do one of 3 things. You either fill out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, you fill out the TASFA, which is much more rare. It's for families or for students rather that maybe are not U.S. citizens or permanent residents. They do not have visas. They are residents of the state of Texas. So usually students are filling out the FAFSA as long as you're a resident or U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. Or a family could simply say, you know what, my older son or daughter, when they were applying for college, we know we weren't eligible for any aid based on our income. We're going to sign an opt-out form. So we're not going to do the FAFSA. But of course, in the state of Texas and as a school counselor, I would always say, at least for the first year, it's a good idea to file the FAFSA, just so you know what to expect. Okay. So there are really 3 types of applications for financial aid. And this is my favorite answer to whenever I'm asked a question about a process, an application process or a financial aid process, I always say it depends on the college, it depends on the university. And this is very true also for financial aid. So if you're filing the FAFSA, every single school in the United States and even some international schools, for instance, in the United Kingdom, they will take the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. The CSS profile is a different application for financial aid, and not every school takes it. I'm going to just click on this so you can see some of the schools that use it. I don't know if it's here. For instance, it's mostly your private colleges or universities. In the state of Texas, schools like Rice University would use it, or SMU, TCU. I think that might be it, really. Most schools, universities, colleges in the state of Texas, they use the FAFSA only. But if you're looking at a more selective school, a more competitive school, for instance, like a Rice University, they're going to use the CSS profile in addition to the FAFSA. Okay, I did that, and now let's see if we can get back to the presentation. Okay. Well, I'm not on the slide, but this is good enough. Okay. So the free application for federal student aid, as I mentioned, there will be a delay this year. That's the big change this year. Will open in December instead of October 1st. So the FAFSA, as I mentioned, it's free. You should never pay for the FAFSA. The student will need to sign up for what's called an FSA ID. It's the Federal Student Aid ID. They'll need to sign up for one. And one parent will need to sign up also for a federal student aid ID. And what it does, so in addition to filling out the FAFSA, you also go and you create an ID. And what that serves as is your electronic signature. I know when I went to college, back in the day, I was filling out a paper FAFSA, and there's no such thing now really as a paper FAFSA. You can print the FAFSA, or you can print the signature page and mail it in if you have to, but it's going to take weeks to process as opposed to maybe 24 to 48 hours if you're doing it online. So every student and at least one parent needs to have an FSA ID, and it'll serve as the signature. And then it'll also help with logging into the FAFSA. So the CSS profile, as I mentioned, it'll still open October 1st. Not every school uses it, though. But always here we go. We're back. Okay. So always the rule of thumb, if you're looking at scholarships, if you're looking at financial aid, deadlines, always check the schools, students, always check the schools you're applying to. Go to their admissions website. They'll have your college application deadlines. They'll also have your financial aid deadlines for both scholarships and for the need-based aid. And then, of course, I mentioned before, the Texas application for student financial aid, it is very rare. At my school, we have like 319 seniors this year that just graduated. I only had 4 that needed to fill out the TASFA. So that just kind of tells you it is pretty rare. And that is still a paper application, unfortunately. I did mention some of these changes that are coming up. The big one is the launch date. But the FAFSA Simplification Act that was signed by or put into law by Congress, it's a lot of technical jargon, a lot of legalese. I do have this. If you maybe you'll get access to this presentation after this event, you can go to those changes in detail if you want to read. It's good late night reading material. It'll put you to sleep instantly. Or I have another link here that you can look at the simplified summary. I have put some of the simplified summary in here. The pros really are that the changes to the FAFSA, it's going to streamline this process incredibly. It's going to be fewer questions. It's going to just be quicker and a quicker processing time, hopefully. Also, it expands access for the neediest students or the neediest families, the students with the most financial need. It's going to expand the access and give those Pell Grant eligible students more money. The perceived cons right now is just there's not a whole lot of information out there about the FAFSA, the simplified FAFSA is what they're calling it. It's not a whole lot of information. Myself, I'm a college counselor at a high school in Texas, and I haven't even received, I have not even been trained on this, and it's coming for next year. And counselors, both on the high school side and admissions counselors on the college side, were both a little perplexed about how this is going to work out. But you know what? We'll just roll with the changes. The delayed launch date, as I mentioned. And one thing that I perceive as a con is the current FAFSA, or this past year's FAFSA. It allowed for families to mention, oh, I have 3 in college this year, or I have 2 in college, two dependents in college. This FAFSA change will not reflect the number of students attending college, which I find to be very sad. In fact, what I find sadder is that I wish colleges understood, like, well, can we have 2 in college? Can we buy, get one, get the second half off, you know? I wish that was the case. Sorry, that's my little joke. Okay, so the big differences between the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and I know it's a lot of information, but I just want you to be aware of this. I think in the fall of your student's senior year, This will all come back again, so just file this away for now. So the big differences are that the colleges that use it, the FAFSA, it's used by all colleges and universities in the United States. The CSS profile, it's a college board document. So if you have signed up for the SAT, or if you've signed up for AP test, you know the College Board will charge you. They are the richest nonprofit organization out there. You will pay money to file the CSS profile, where the FAFSA is free. There is a fee involved. It's College Board. They're gonna nickel and dime everything. And then who can apply? I already mentioned that. U.S. citizens, permanent residents, and eligible non-citizens for the FAFSA. All students. U.S. citizens, permanent residents, undocumented students, and international students can fill out the CSS profile. Need eligibility determined. The FAFSA is a much more streamlined, a much more basic assets reflected, where the CSS profile is much more comprehensive. CSS profile will even go as deep into your financial status as to ask for the value of your home, the value of your car, the value of your retirement plan. Not all that information is going to reflect necessarily to a great degree in the financial aid package, but it is important to know you're going to spend a lot more time filling out the CSS profile if the schools your student's applying to use it. Need eligibility determined. I've skipped this one, but FAFSA is just basic federal money and state money if you're staying in the state of Texas. The CSS profile for those schools, those more selective schools, those private universities that are wildly expensive, it's how they determine how much of their own money that they're going to award you. And usually it's in grant money, free money that you don't have to pay back, which is still a pretty good deal. The FAFSA just uses 1 year of tax information. The CSS profile will ask for 2 years of tax information. And let me see if I can sort of boil this down. When you fill out the FAFSA, you are filling out the FAFSA version for the year that your student is going to be in college. So if we're looking at the class of 2024, our rising seniors, they will fill out the 2024-2025 FAFSA. That's correct. So class of 2024, 2024-2025 FAFSA version, because that's the year they're receiving the aid, not applying for the aid. All right, and then for FAFSA and CSS profile, there is, for families that are maybe divorced or separated, FAFSA only looks at the custodial household. CSS profile typically asks for everything. They'll ask for custodial and non-custodial family information. I know it's a lot. We're gonna power through. Now the good stuff, scholarships, merit-based aid. Okay, so if you're students, if you're juniors this year, and this is really, again, this is the sort of the presentation I used for my junior parent night this spring. I changed a few things. But there's not a whole lot in scholarships that you can apply for if you're not a senior. I do recommend, though, I have some scholarship search sites down here. I do recommend if you're a sophomore, rising junior, if you're a freshman, rising sophomore, I do recommend going on to some of these free scholarship search sites. Like fastweb.com is very reputable. It's been around for decades. Going Mary is one of my favorites. It's sort of like a common application for scholarships. You fill out one version of an application, and then all these scholarships will match to the criteria that you put in, and you just apply for them. Just click a button. So these free scholarship search sites, I will sort of give a disclaimer. They will send you an email probably per day or per week, so it can get a little annoying. So if you are signing up for some of these sites, maybe subfolder it, filter it into a folder, and look at it when you're ready. But the big window of opportunity for scholarships is in the senior year of high school. And scholarships really fall into two categories. There are those that are offered by the colleges themselves. So if, let's say, Trinity University in San Antonio, if a student applies and they're accepted, then they're automatically reviewed for scholarships, merit-based scholarships. That can only be used at that institution. And then if they want to apply for outside scholarships or private scholarships, those are the ones that are typically available from the local community. There might be some, I know in the students I work with, some of their elementary schools offer alumni scholarships, or maybe their faith-based organizations offer scholarships, or maybe the local Rotary Club. I'm just trying to think about all these outside donors that offer scholarships. So one, there's either by the college, and you're getting those every year pretty much that you're in school. But the outside donors, private scholarships are usually 1 year in duration. The typical window for those outside scholarships, I would say October through April of the senior year. That's the big window of opportunity. And it really reflects or it coincides with the process for applying to college. So the good news is that when a student is applying for outside scholarships or private scholarships, they've probably already written college essays for their applications, and they probably already asked for letters of recommendation from teachers or counselors at their school. So those can be used for scholarship applications. So the idea is hopefully it won't be as hard to apply for scholarships. It's just finding them. So also students, check with your local, or check with your schools, check with your high school counselors to see what scholarships they know about. Okay, so I know that a lot of the students I work with, they do ask for FAFSA help, and certainly at the school that you attend, there should be help through your counseling office. But then the Austin Chamber of Commerce and ACC and Red Kite, they partner every single year to provide free financial aid workshops to students in the Austin and greater Austin area. Round Rock, Leander, Cedar Park, there should be some opportunities in your area every fall. And since the FAFSA is opening later, it should be in the fall and the early spring. Those dates are not open, of course, right now, but there's the website College Insight that you can check those in the fall. Okay, I know, again, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant, right? A lot of information. This is just really general information that's going to carry you through every year. So we've got need-based financial aid. We have the types of financial aid applications you're using, and then we have scholarships. Scholarships, the good stuff, so start looking for scholarships. But are there any questions out there? Anything that anyone would like me to go over again?
The work-study option, does that mean you're simply working at the school and you're just getting a paycheck and to pay for your tuition, or is that like you would get a discounted tuition too?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so work-study, that is the one thing when a student brings in a financial aid award to me and we're breaking it down, I say from the get-go, take out work-study. Don't even count it as going to pay off tuition immediately. And here's why. If a student gets work-study, they still have to apply and interview for that job on campus. And then they'll earn that paycheck every 2 weeks, just like they would any other job, really. Now, the student and the family can decide, do we want this money to go off to pay off the balance of our tuition bill? But a lot of families just say, hey, this is your running around money. So if I need to, or if I want to go out to dinner with my friends, or I want to go to an event off campus, or I need to buy a new pair of shoes or whatever, that they can use that money for themselves. That's more normal, I would say, but it's up to the family to decide, do you want it to go off to pay tuition? But remember, these are probably minimum wage jobs on campus. So the good thing, though, about work-study jobs, they are so easy. They're on the campus university, or the university campus, and it's like, hey, work in the admissions office and give tours, and then when you have a break, do your homework. Or work in the library, check out books, help students, check out stuff or find stuff, and then do your homework. Or work in the bookstore, and then when you're not busy, do your homework. So, and the nice thing about work-study jobs also is that the campus department will work with the students. They're gonna say, you're a student first and foremost. We're gonna work around your school schedule. Where if they got a job at like a restaurant or coffee shop off campus, that they might not have as much flexibility.
I was reading somewhere that if somebody has a 5 to 9 plan, then in that case, the financial aid is not offered. Is that correct? Or you have any
So-
view on that?
Even if you're getting or if you have set up a 529 plan, you should still be filling out the financial aid, in my opinion, because you could be getting additional money. So what happens with the 529, you buy into a plan, maybe a 4-year public, a 4-year private, or a 2-year community college experience. And so the state sets the rate, or, I mean, this is when it was Texas Tomorrow Fund. Oh my gosh, I'm so old. So there's a rate that's set every year. Here's how much will apply toward the bill. But then you can still fill out the financial aid to see if you get any other money. Yeah, because the thing is, when you get a financial aid package from the financial aid office, it is really up to you as a family to decide, here's what we want to accept. Obviously, the free money, the scholarships and grants. Even if you're offered student loans, you don't have to take those out. You can decline those. Even if you're offered work study, you don't have to take that out. You can decline that if you want. I see students every year accept work study, and then they get on the campus in the fall, and they never get a job. Well, they just don't earn that money. So, yeah.
So do all the financial aid options mentioned apply to ACC students?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And ACC also has some wonderful scholarships. They have a really streamlined scholarship process. You fill out one version of an application, and it'll put you in contention for all of these scholarships. You can really, really get it. It can be such an affordable option through those scholarships. But yeah, just fill out the FAFSA. Yeah.
So one thing that wasn't clear to me was the scholarships. You apply for those every year, or are they granted for the full 4 years?
So if it's through the college, if it's the college or university, typically that is a 4-year scholarship. So a college might say, congratulations, you are getting $2,000 per year for 4 years. So you're getting a total of $8,000 for the 4-year total, but we're going to divide it by each year. And really then, financial aid, even though you get a financial aid award that's for the year, it is broken down into fall semester and spring semester. I mean, some schools use a quarter system, so it would be a little different. But here in the state of Texas, I think every school pretty much is on a semester system. So you're only paying for one semester at a time, even though you're awarded financial aid for the whole year. Yeah, but most of those are full 4-year scholarships if it's through the college or university. Yeah.
So these, all these scholarships are taxable? It should be the part of the family income tax?
So it won't be, well, some are need-based scholarships. So, but it will say, like some are absolutely merit-based. Like they're not looking at family income at all for eligibility, but then some will. Like for instance, there are some that are like the Jack Kent Cook Foundation or the Horatio Alger Award. Those are need-based scholarships. So, but otherwise they're just looking at who's the most qualified candidate.
Where can we find like a list of all like the Texas scholarships?
So, you know what my favorite thing is? Google scholarships for Texas students. I mean, I know it sounds so basic, but I will, or ask your high school or ask your college. If you're currently at a college right now, go to the financial aid office and ask them what scholarships are available for Texas students, for local students. I constantly run a list every single year that I just continue to update. I'll give you a hint. If you email me, I will send you that scholarship list. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna, no good deed goes unpunished. You know what? I stand by it. Or I can send it to Shake and then he can distribute it. But if you want to email me, I can send you the scholarship link I use every year. Because really, the same outside or private scholarships, they are updated every single year, and they're usually due around the same time. And they usually stay on the same website. So if you see my list and you see something's due in November, then it's probably going to be November this year that it has a deadline.
Thank you for those information. And my question is, we heard about some high school student this year who got like $9 million of scholarship. how those who still like in their first year of high school, second year of high school, how can they prepare themselves to reach to that point?
Okay, so I'll give you my own experience that this year for the LASA class of 2023, we were able to stay at graduation. LASA students who reported scholarships received $37 million in scholarship offers. Well, obviously, they can't accept all of that money because we say offers. So if a student was awarded $9 million, it might be that they applied to 10 school, 8 to 10 schools and then maybe got scholarships at all of them. Well, when it's a school-based or college-based scholarship, you can only use it at one school. So, but really, check your college websites. I run a list even for my students of here are the scholarship or here are the colleges that are known to be generous to students at my school. So, and sign up for those free scholarship search sites. Just students, think of that as like a little part-time job. You should always be looking for scholarships. I am saying even when you graduate from high school and you are in college, you should never stop looking for scholarships because there are some scholarships that are only available to high school students, and then there are some scholarships that are only available to undergraduate students. So apply for anything that you think you might be eligible for, and that's how those students are getting like the $9 million offers. Yeah, just keep applying, keep applying.
Can you tell about Ivy League scholarships?
AP scholarships?
No, Ivy League. Ivy League.
IB? Oh, I don't work in an IB school. I work at a school that has AP, so I'm not sure about the IB, the International Baccalaureate Scholarships. Does anybody have any expertise in that?
Some of the colleges that you put up there were what we would call Ivy League schools.
Oh, Ivy. Sorry, I was thinking IB, anyway. So here's the thing about Ivy League universities. Yes, they are the most esteemed universities in the land. They do not offer any merit aid because every student would be getting a merit aid scholarship there. They would go bankrupt. So that wasn't that funny, but yes, the most selective schools in the country, they don't offer any merit-based scholarship. It's going to be need-based aid that you're eligible for, only that you're considered for. But because those schools have such large endowments, like if we're looking at a Harvard, a Yale, Princeton, a Stanford, they sort of have these income bands. So if you're at this income level, they'll say you're eligible for this percentage. If you're right in here, you're eligible for this percentage, and here, and here, and here, and so on. So even families that can reasonably pay something, they might still be getting some grant money. So it's always worth, one, doing those net price calculators, so you're not blindsided by the amount that they're expecting you to pay. Also, it's worth applying for financial aid every year because you never know if you might be eligible until you do it. Because this process is very front-loaded for college applications. Students are going to apply in the fall. They're going to find out, if they're applying early, they're going to find out maybe before winter break, or they're going to find out in January. But if they're applying with a January 1st deadline, regular decision, they're not going to find out until April or between spring break and April 1st that they've been accepted. Well, you still have to apply for financial aid, but you're not going to get a lot of those financial aid packages until like March. Yeah, and then students have to turn around and make a decision by May 1st of their senior year. So financial aid comes after they apply and they're accepted. No school's going to award a financial aid package for a student who hasn't been accepted yet.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, how can we look for scholarships based on specific extracurricular activities?
Yes. So these scholarship search sites that I have right here are perfect for that because when you create an account at like a FastWeb, that was a great question, by the way. So I don't know, it was your little brother's question, right? He loves it, the amplification, yeah. I feel really loud right now. So my laugh is very loud through this microphone. So if you sign on to one of these sites, or you might sign on to a couple of them, well, you might see some overlap. right? Well, they're going to ask you to create a profile. And in that profile, you're going to say, I'm a rising 11th grader, a rising senior, rising this. And you're going to say, here are the activities that I'm in. And maybe here's what I'm interested in majoring in. And maybe I do these other things as a hobby. And it's going to constantly search for scholarships that meet your criteria. So that's how you look for them. Or, again, do the old Goog, scholarships for students who want to major in business. Scholarship, I mean, I constantly just do that and see what comes up. Yeah. You can utilize a lot of resources, but yeah, these are just a few.
In general, is there any list of colleges which can we see that how much they offer in scholarships?
So you can always look up, if you just XYZ University, merit-based scholarships. Now, this used to be more true like maybe 10 to 15 years ago, that colleges would have a grid on their website, especially public universities in Texas. They would say, if you were this quarter of your class, like you're ranked in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and you have this test score, then you are automatically eligible for this. Sometimes colleges, universities don't do that as much anymore because they do want to have some latitude in awarding scholarships for students that they maybe have other qualities like leadership or athletic ability or fine arts ability. So they'll just be they'll hold their cards close. And they'll say, well, we have a range of scholarships that are between $10,000 and $25,000 per year. But always just Google, XYZ University, whatever university it is, merit-based scholarships, just to see what it says, and of course for their deadlines, because some of them do have their own deadline, like deadlines that are separate from college application deadlines. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Cannot hear you.
So how much does preparing a student for the PSAT or the SAT, how does that align with scholarships?
Yes. So the PSAT, the PSAT, the preliminary SAT, can yield a lot of money. So students take the PSAT, the PSAT, the one that counts, like at LASA, students freshman, sophomore, junior year take it. Freshman and sophomore year are true practice, but the PSAT that they take in junior year, in October of their junior year, is the one that counts for the money. So if a student takes that test and they get a high enough cut score or selection index, then the following year when they're seniors, they will find out, are they semifinalists for the National Merit Scholarship Corporation? And then they will receive tons and tons and tons of mail or email about this school in Delaware wants to give you a full ride. This school, UNT, UTD, University of Alabama, University of Arkansas, all these schools want to give you, full tuition scholarship, maybe a laptop, maybe, room and board. Here's the thing is, I know from my school, sometimes students aren't as excited about those options. Like maybe they don't want to go to Arizona State. I don't know. They'd rather reach higher and try to go to the schools that don't offer any merit aid. What are you doing with your life? No, I'm kidding. A student and a family has to decide what's right for their student. So, but that could be an opportunity. Now the SAT, there are some schools still that a higher SAT is going to yield more money because the SAT and the ACT are still standardized enough that they know that a student with this score has this capability, where if your student goes to this high school versus this high school versus this high school, that's a lot more uncertain about how strong that high school curriculum is. So test scores are still, probably one of the best things they have for awarding scholarships. So the higher the score, the more money, sliding scale. Great questions.
Hi. So are those the test scores only the criteria for merits, or what are other criteria that they look for merit scholarship?
Oh, I'm sorry, say again?
What are the other criteria for merit scholarship selection?
Like the other criteria?
Yeah, so only the test score applies, or do we have any other thing that they look for to provide, to give scholarship?
So it just really depends on the school, and it depends on the student and what their interests are, what they're submitting in an application. Like I know that a scholarship is probably going to ask for a transcript. A scholarship is probably going to ask for test scores, probably a couple of letters of recommendation. It's I don't know if I'm answering that question right. Is that what you were asking? Like the other elements of the review?
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
college only look at the PSAT score and other scores, or they look for other criteria as well to give scholarship?
Yeah, yeah, and the PSAT, I mean, there's a list out there. If you look for it, you know a student is eligible for that score or is close to that cut score. Like we know, we're gonna know the cut score for the PSAT. We're not gonna know that until September, but we know last year's, you know, so we can look at, well, it's probably gonna be pretty much the same, and then we can just Google, like, here are the schools that offer those really, like, generous award packages for the PSAT.
Yeah, another question just came to my mind. So with the rec letters, I don't know, I think students normally have 2 or 3 that they have to fill out. Would you recommend entirely teachers, or would you recommend a balance between workplace, or what packs the biggest punch?
So just for the college application, I'm gonna start there and then we'll go to scholarships. This college application typically requires a blend, well, 2 teachers, usually if they do require letters, 2 teachers. And then some schools, if they're using like the common application, they'll also want a counselor rec to talk about their high school experience. Like my school is a great example. We're a magnet school that students have to apply to get in. So the college, university, or the scholarship donor, they need that context of what environment they're coming from. So, and the counselor letter can talk more about like things that don't happen in the classroom, like activities and interest and hobbies and all that. So, so the same scholarships or the same recommendations can be used for scholarships, but if a student has an employer or a community service supervisor or a youth leader, or, I mean, those are just great character references for scholarships. And it also kind of depends on what the scholarship's looking for. Like if it's a leadership-based scholarship, or if it's a scholarship based on, well, this is for STEM students who are going into STEM careers, then you might want to ask a STEM teacher. Or if it's for leadership, you might want to ask a community service or an activity leader or an activity supervisor. So I say kind of tailor those, but I don't want a student to have to ask like 10 different people. Like 2 or 3 is fine for all of the things, college apps and scholarships, 2 to 3.
So can AP scores sort of warrant certain scholarships, or?
So AP scores, I hate to say this because I know our students take a ton of APs. The AP scores are not the most important thing on the application. They're more important when the college you decide to go to and what credit they're going to award. And then by taking those AP scores, you test out of certain classes, so you don't have to pay that money to attend that class. That's where APs come in. You've already met that requirement for that course. AP scores just for scholarship money, probably not gonna be a huge contender, but the fact that you're not having to take that class because you have that credit, that's where you're saving the money.
Anybody? Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Okay, I want to thank Ms. Jamie once again for coming on a Saturday evening, and it's really informative session. Thank you very much. You know, if you haven't, by the way, is it okay if we post the presentation online?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll have it online for those who are not able to see the presentation, inshallah. Thanks again. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.